Hello, I'm Christina. I help people who are anxious and overthinking and procrastinating to become more themselves, to live more freely, express themselves more freely. And I help that by helping you build a better relationship with yourself. Because I think that you can only be truly free if you are yourself. And on these topics, on these topics, On these topics, I recently started a publication on Substack. So if you're interested, I have already published some essays you can find the link in the description below. So today I want to talk about procrastination. And if you're anxious, you're probably procrastinating all the time and overthinking all the time, and you absolutely can't start doing something. And what I want to do is just talk more about my personal experiences and what happened in my life. So I shifted more from the procrastinating and overthinking person to actually actually starting something like doing YouTube videos. Does it look strange? I think it does. Um, yeah. So I'm talking more about my personal experiences and the transformation I have gone through and the shifts in perspective and kind of feeling and fear that have helped me actually start something and start publishing. I wanted to start this business since last year. So it took me actually a year to start. Before that, in January 2022, I decided to start a side hustle to earn a little bit of money on the side. But of course, I did not start. I was overthinking constantly because I had too many options, which is a problem in itself. But still, you could just start with something and then move on from there. But often the problem is if you're an anxious person, the procrastination comes from certain fears of failure, for example, or of judgment. Though I've come to understand that certainly some people might be afraid of other people's judgment, but not necessarily everyone. Because I think it might also be because of a bad relationship with yourself. Some people are just, some people are scared that other people could confirm what they believe about themselves. So if they avoid social situations altogether. For example, if you want to be smart, but you think of yourself as a stupid person because of certain things. For me personally, I was always really bad at talking. When I was younger, I had so many problems like severe social anxiety and depression, and it led me to not talk. So I never really developed this skill, and it made me feel really stupid not being able to speak properly like other people my age. And I had belief for a long time that I'm stupid. So I feared that other people would confirm this belief about myself. So it's not all the time about other people's judgment, because judgment in itself is just an opinion. And opinions are just basically, it's subjective. And it's and it's based around other people's experiences and their point of views. And oftentimes it's just a reflection of who they are. It doesn't say anything about you. It's most often used as a form of projection. For example, you have something they want and they are jealous about it and dislike you for that and judge you for that. Or it's something they dislike about themselves. They don't have the life they want and they're really just bitter people, and they have to make themselves feel more, well, greater than they are. Need to push their ego, they need to feel better. So they downgrade someone else. But that's not your problem. So I just want to say that you can't escape other people's judgment because there will always be people like that. You can't change it. But I don't think that it's up to other people whether you actually start and live the life you want, or start the business you want, or start a project you really love but you are scared of doing. And of course, there's also this perfectionism that goes along with everything. I have not been able to paint for a very long time, in over 10 years, because of this fear of perfectionism. Because often what it just says, it's you do not feel worthy if you do not have a perfect outcome of something. If whatever you do is not perfect, you're not worthy enough. But that's absolutely not true. I've written one of the essays is about this, and you're worthy just by existing. So it can't take away your worth by, even if something is not perfect. But all comes just down to really having a bad relationship with yourself. And I think it's one of the most important steps or things you can change to actually overcome your procrastination and overthinking to actually start something. And there is general advice, of course, like just start. It's just this basic rule to just start for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then everything just magically falls into place and you start the business of your dreams, and you can do this each and every day. I don't think that works for everyone. It depends. But if you're a really anxious person and your fear is too immense, it won't help you. I have tried this with starting to draw every day. Draw every day for, it doesn't matter how long, just draw something, because eventually I will be able to paint again. It did not work. I've done this for a month. I suppose it was about a month, and it did not help at all. It just, at some point, I unconsciously stopped doing it. So, if your anxiety is too immense, it doesn't help. And it's the same with, yes, you can prepare something beforehand. So, for example, if you want to start doing exercises or start going to the gym, you can lay out your clothes beforehand, or all the exercise equipment. You can do that as well, or just combine it with something you like. For example, once you start something important, a task you absolutely have to do, or your project, whatever, you have a scented candle by your side, or you drink a really nice cup of coffee, something, or you dress really nicely, you dress in your favorite clothes or something like that, and just make it fun this way, of course. It just it depends. You can also try to see everything as an experiment. This does help to some degree, I have to admit. It's just the same with be bored. Somehow everyone tells you nowadays to be bored. It's kind of like really trendy right now to be bored. At some point, yes, it's true. Because if you are bored, it means just you're not doing anything. So it's basically you are trying to set aside all the distractions so that you can focus on one thing. But again, if the fear is too immense, it does not really help. And you, even if you start something, oftentimes you probably know that you want to start something, but then you unconsciously do something else. You just stay busy with all kinds of stuff you actually don't really need to do. It's just this avoiding piling up because the fear is still in the way. And I think a better approach to all of this is an identity shift. You've probably heard about this if you've been researching topics like procrastination. And many people tell you to just change your identity, change your behavior, change certain habits you have every day, change your clothing you wear, or even the environment you're in. But it's not helpful for everyone. You can't just, if you want to be a millionaire and then you have to be around other millionaires, how do you find these people? How can you even afford, if you don't have any money, how can you afford being in even in spaces like that? It's not really possible. Well, you can change your own behavior and habits, yes, but it's really difficult. I think something has to start first in order for you to actually make a change. Or it naturally has to start a change in you somehow. Something really drastic has to happen. And that was basically the reason for me why I started. You could also try to be really fed up with not doing anything. Because if you feel anger, it propels you forward to actually start something. Because anger is like fire, while fear is like ice. If the anger in you being fed up is stronger than the fear of, for example, being seen, when maybe you want to start a YouTube channel as well, and you are absolutely afraid of being seen, it might help at some point, but not always. And I think an identity shift is helpful in a way, yes, but it's really difficult to actually achieve that. I think it is. It sounds so easy when other people say that, and now you wonder why and how I have overcome maybe the fear of being seen. 1 year ago, I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to start a business, but I thought, it was mandatory to start a YouTube channel to get an audience. And then someone else said, "Oh, you actually can just decide on the medium you want to, the medium you prefer, for example. And I always thought, well, I'm really bad at talking, and I was better at writing, well, mostly in my native language, not English necessarily. But it was so obvious this choice to me that I would just write. And when I started writing these essays, there's still a part of me who is a perfectionist, and each word has to own its place, everything has to make sense, and to some degree, it is quite exhausting, I have to admit, writing these essays. And I just realized I often just stand in the middle of the room and talk to myself, so I decided to give it another go with making videos. And because it's weirdly, not weirdly, but weird. It's really weird just because it seems like when I just talk to myself about something I'm interested in, I'm in this flow state and it energizes me. So it's very important to find out what actually energizes you and not just go with advice other people give you. And, well, I think the secret weapon or the secret tool you can utilize to overcome this fear, for example, of being seen or starting something is comparison. Of course, I do not mean comparison in a way that you compare yourself to others, because that's absolutely not helpful at all. Nobody is like you. You can't compare yourself to others. You can compare yourself to yourself, That's true. And it's helpful in some way as well. But if you really want to start something, I mean the comparison of fear. And this is something that only made me realize after I lost my mother recently. I just, you know, if you lose someone dear or near to you, that's the greatest pain, the greatest loss, and the greatest suffering you could experience. And nothing really compares to that. And it just made me not be afraid of being seen. I mean, it's especially if you are introverted or shy, you probably hate being in the spotlight, or you hate being in field of attention, just having attention on you. You just hate that. I absolutely agree with that. But you also have to understand that whatever you're doing is not only for yourself but for other people as well. You probably want to help other people with something, or even if it's just something you want to start, but it's you do this for yourself because you really like it. But in the end, the happier you are, the happier the people around you will be as well. So other people will always benefit from whatever you're doing, as long as it's making you satisfied and happy and it really helps you do the things you want to do and just be whoever you are. So having a greater fear than the fear you have. What's a greater fear for you than the fear of failure or the fear of other people's judgment? It's, I mean, it's only their experience anyway, and their opinion. It doesn't say anything about you, and or a greater fear than being seen making a YouTube video. Nothing actually bad will happen when you make videos. Even if people judge you, well, who cares? Just ignore everything they're writing. Because even if you decide to stop at some point, you might learn something new. You at least you have tried, and then you have come to the realization that you actually don't like doing videos. But it could also be the opposite. Maybe you absolutely love making videos, or you start to like editing, and then it propels you into another dimension, or something else, a different career, or something else you want. So everything has its advantages and disadvantages, and you could learn and grow from everything. Just start, and maybe so many people could resonate with you, because if you like something, there will be always people who like the same thing, and there will always be people who are similar to you. You're not an alien. I always thought I was an alien, but then the more people I get to know, get to meet, I just feel more or less normal, because everyone is weird in their own way. And it's good this way. That's absolutely fine. So I hope this kind of helps, this reframe of fear comparison. And I just wished I had started a year sooner, because maybe I could have supported my mother better. And after cleaning out my old bedroom and the apartment itself, I wouldn't have needed to go by foot and carry everything, all the heavy stuff, and helping more my father, who's old as well and who's in hospital right now as well. So I would have had a car right by now, so I could help other people and myself. It's not all about the money. It's procrastinating and overthinking and not starting can cost you so much more than only money. And I really wished that I had someone to start this with me, this journey, this business with me a year ago, because who knows where I would have been then by now. And don't regret something. Don't regret not having started sooner, because it can cost you really so much, not only money. And maybe my mother would still be alive because I would have the money to support her in a different ways. And I just wished I would have acted sooner. So all the things I offer with my small solo business is basically this kind of support I wished I had. Back then, when I had social anxiety, severe social anxiety, I wished I had a mentor who gets me out of my situation, or just takes me by the hand and guides me out of it, just mentors me and says, oh, everything is fine, everything will work out. But I never had this kind of person. And the same with procrastination. I wished I had someone last year to start this with me and not waste a complete year of my life, because you probably know this as well, that even if you want to start something and you don't do it, even this not doing is extremely exhausting, because you're constantly procrastinating and overthinking, and it just drains your energy. You're absolutely unproductive, but it still feels like you're doing something because you just feel drained and exhausted. So I we are. So I want to offer a one-on-one guidance when you want to actually start something. If you have an idea what you actually want to start, even if you don't have an idea, it's not a problem at all. I can help you figure it out. I have really great intuition. I have really great understanding of human knowledge. Of human knowledge? Of human nature. Or really great knowledge about human nature. That's how you say it, right? So we can actually study together, figure out what you really want to do, because there are different ways to get into this as well. I know this because I have so many ideas, but it does not mean that you should follow everything. It doesn't make any sense. And so if you're interested in a one-on-one guidance mentoring session, because I do not think of myself as a content creator or influencer. It's absolutely not my thing. I just want to help other people who were in a similar situation to myself, to help them get out of that and have a better relationship with yourself. And this is basically what I want to offer. So if you're interested, you can find links to my sessions in the description as well, just like the Substack link. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations, or you want to have a freebie, I don't know what you want, I don't know what you need. Well, I want to give you what you need, because what you want you can mostly give yourself. But I want to give you what you need. And so if you have any suggestions, you can write me also. Write in the comments if you want anything, if you need anything, whatever you're struggling with. I will come up with something. And I hope you find this helpful and maybe thought a little bit about the comparison of fear. It might help you, even if you only have a pet, for example, right? Losing a pet, it would be way worse than starting a business or showing your face. It's absolutely nothing compared to that. So give it a try, and you're welcome to comment on that if it helped you in a way. I will be happy to read everything. So until next time, bye.